In today's video, I'm going to be talking about one of my very favorite lions of all time, Kiara. Now, I've actually already done a review of Kovu, Kiara's husband, so if you want to go check that out, you can. But anyway, let me tell you about Kiara. Now, Kiara is the daughter of King Simba and Queen Nala, and the future ruler of the Pride Lands. And there's actually another story where another cub was actually supposed to be the next ruler, but I'll have to talk about him in another video. But from what it looks like, Kiara is going to be the next ruler of the Pride Lands, and so far as we know, she's probably the only girl to be born into Simba's family line, you know, to be the next ruler. Although I'm sure there probably had to have been at least another one, but we don't know about her yet. But Kiara is the only girl to be born in Simba's family line, you know, to take over the throne. But anyway, so it's actually interesting because at the end of The Lion King, Rafiki brings out the cub, while in The Lion King 2, Simba and Nala bring out the cub. So there are, you know, some suspicions that that cub at the end of The Lion King is not Kiara, even though Disney's actually said that it is Kiara. But I don't know, maybe Rafiki just brought out the cub and then maybe she was getting fussy and Nala and Simba took her in the den for a little bit, then they brought her back out. Maybe that's what happened. But anyway, after Rafiki presents Kiara to the Pride Lands, Timon and Pumbaa assume that she's a boy, but Rafiki reveals to them that she's actually a girl. And so anyway, time passes, and it's revealed that Kiara is just like Simba was when he was young. She was very adventurous, and even, I think, mischievous. And maybe not even just a little bit, maybe more than just a little bit. But anyway, so Simba is going to let Kiara leave Pride Rock for a little while to go out and play. But she runs across the Outlands, and just like her mother and father did when they were little, she sneaks off into the Outlands. That is, once she is able to get away from Timon and Pumbaa, and that's when she meets Kovu. And Kiara, her and Kovu, they get away from these alligators or crocodiles. I actually think they were crocodiles. They get away from these crocodiles, and Kiara is absolutely amazed that she did it, that she, you know, could really take care of herself. She was able to get away from these crocodiles in one piece. And then her and Kovu start talking, they introduce themselves, and then they start to play together. And that's when Simba and Kovu's mother Zira appear, and then it's revealed that Kiara's new friend is actually been chosen by Scar to take over from him and become the next king. But Kovu, thankfully, is not like his mother. But anyway, so they take their cubs back home, and Simba, of course, scolds Kiara, kind of like how Mufasa did him all those years ago. And he explains that she's going to be the future queen at some point, and that she needs to be careful. And eventually, time passes, and there's actually a book where Kiara runs into Kovu again, and I'm going to have to read that book to you sometime, because it's pretty good, and I think it's very, very rare. But apparently Kovu and Kiara did, you know, see each other again before they're full grown, and I'll get more to that in a minute. But anyway, so time passed, and Kiara grew out of her adventureness and became, like, more responsible and that kind of thing. She's definitely different in the Lion Guard than she was at the beginning of The Lion King 2, which could be because maybe she's older or something, I guess. But anyway, so Kiara is going to be the future queen, and then eventually her brother Kion takes over as leader of the Lion Guard, and there's different episodes in the Lion Guard. There's one where Simba and Nala have to go to this funeral of this elephant that they know, and Simba leaves Kiara in charge of the Pride Lands. And, if Zazu didn't have to go with them, I really don't understand why he would, have a cub look after the Pride Lands. I mean, I guess he had really no choice, and apparently he didn't, since Zazu was going with them, because I could see Zazu taking care of things, but since he needed to go with Simba and Nala, I guess that's why Simba had Kiara do it. Plus, she did do a pretty good job, but anyway, so he leaves Kiara in charge, and Kiara's two best friends are very excited about this, and they really kind of go all out for Kiara. But anyway, everyone is excited about Kiara being queen except for Kion, and I'll have to talk a little bit more about that when I review that episode. But Kiara does do a pretty good job as queen, but apparently she's just queen temporarily. And as of now, she's still not the queen yet, but I'll get more into that in a minute. So anyway, yeah, there's different episodes of Kiara in the Lion Guard. And there's this one where Nala takes her and Kion on this trip, and they end up having to track Nala and that kind of thing. And again, I'll have to talk about that when I review that episode. That is more about that. But anyway, so while Kion and his friends are on this trip, which explains why he's not in The Lion King 2, the rest of The Lion King 2 takes place, and we get to see Kiara's first hunt. And Kiara's first hunt is mentioned in The Lion Guard. And seeing that, that episode that actually took place before her big hunt, we're like, oh boy, we know how that's gonna go. But anyway, so Simba is still worried about Kiara, and he even has Timon and Pumbaa check on her, keep an eye on her, even though he had actually promised to let her be. And Kiara finds Timon and Pumbaa and realizes this, so she starts to leave the Pride Lands, and Kovu's sister Nuka and Watani set the Pride Lands on fire because it was Zira's plan for him to rescue Kiara so he could get in good with her, and then once he was close with her, he could get close to Simba. But first, he had to rescue Kiara from this fire that his older sister and brother started. So he saves Kiara, and she doesn't recognize him at first, but then she does, and then Simba runs up and realizes that it's Kovu. But when Zazu reminds Simba that since he saved Kiara, Simba should let him stay in the Pride Lands and that kind of thing, to pay him back for saving Kiara. So Simba agrees to let Kovu stay, and Zira's plan starts to work. And then when Kiara goes to thank Kovu for saving her, he admits to her that she's not much of a hunter, or at least that she didn't do very well. And she's like, oh, so could you do better? And he's like, yeah. So that's how Kovu gets himself into training Kiara how to hunt. And it's actually interesting because, we see her training to hunt in the Lion Guard, and I'd imagine Nala's a good hunter, so I don't really know how come Kiara had trouble with it. But anyway, so Kovu starts to teach her, and then they run into Timon and Pumbaa, and that's when Kovu begins to learn to have fun. And then when they run into these angry rhinos, they all squeeze into this little cave or something, and when Timon and Pumbaa are trying to get out, Kovu and Kiara accidentally kiss, which starts them to fall in love with each other. And then that night they're laying on their backs looking up at the stars, like how Timon and Pumbaa would do with Simba. And Kiara reveals to Kovu that they used to do that all the time, which I don't think we ever see them do that in the Lion Guard. That really would have been nice to see Simba doing that with Kiara and even Kion. That would have been nice. But anyway, so when Kovu goes to leave, Rafiki, who wants Kovu and Kiara together so they can reunite the prides, tries to do just that, get them together, and Kovu and Kiara fall in love with each other, which was not according to his mother Zira's plan. And Kovu was getting ready to tell Kiara this, but Simba wanted to talk to Kovu instead, and then Zira made it look like Kovu had brought Simba into an ambush, which Kovu had no idea was going to be there. And so Simba, thinks that Kovu actually did have something to do with it, so he banishes him, and Kiara goes after him. And so she finds Kovu, and when she finds him, he tells her that they should run away together and start a pride of their own. But she tells him that they have to go back because if they run away, their two families will be divided forever. So Kovu agrees, and just in the nick of time, just as Zira and Simba are about to strike each other, possibly even kill each other, Kovu and Kiara jump in the middle and stop them. And Kiara's the one that actually convinces Vitani and the other lionesses, or at least Vitani to start with, that they should forget the past and be one pride, to reunite the prides. So Vitani and all the lionesses, except for Zira, know that Kiara is right and go on their side. But of course Zira is the only one still standing that is against Simba, and just as she jumps at Simba, Kiara blocks her, and Kiara and Zira roll off a cliff, and Simba goes after Kiara, and Kiara is able to get to safety, and she tries to help Zira, but Zira wouldn't accept her help, and she too is history, just like Scar. So Simba helps Kiara back up onto solid ground, and Simba tells Kovu that he was wrong about everything, and then Kovu and Kiara get married later on, and then in the Lion Guard, when Kion and his friends return, Kovu and Kiara explain everything that happened to him and the others. And there's even a part in that episode where Simba reveals that Kovu and Kiara will be the next king and queen, revealing that Kovu and Kiara are not king and queen yet. So maybe since, Kiara is, the one born royal, I guess, she has to be obviously old enough, and maybe at the time she wasn't, or maybe they both were not. I think Kovu would probably be old enough, but I'm guessing since Simba said that they would be the next king and queen, and they're not, the king and queen yet, I'm guessing that Kiara's maybe not quite old enough yet, I'm guessing. But that'll be something when they do become king and queen. That'll really be something. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this character review of Kiara, and stay tuned for more. Bye!